revealing one's identity. Many of you know, if you get to know me personally, that I've picked up as a hobby going golfing, often with many members here. But if I travel around and it's the peak summer season, you are going to get put with others to play golf. And often there's a little anxiety when it comes to that. You know, are they going to be nice? Am I going to play well in front of them? Or am I going to make a fool of myself? And then as a rabbi, as a Jew, there's that added piece when the small talk happens. And so what do you do for a living? And I find myself reluctant to say, I'm a rabbi from New York. Is it because of fear of my personal well-being? Really deep down, no. Someone on the golf course doesn't have, God forbid, a weapon on them, and I don't think they're going to openly share anti-Semitic thoughts that are there. Really what it means is I don't want to have to be a representative of the Jewish people, perhaps be a role model of a rabbi. You know, sometimes four-letter words can fly out when you're playing golf. But it comes with being part of a minority group, that if you're going to share a piece of your identity, that you have to be willing to advertise for it, to advocate for it, to answer people's questions. And I want today to challenge us to be proud to share our Jewish identity, because we never used to be able to. We didn't have these sort of split identities. Almost every part of diaspora Jewish living, Jews were an own class of citizenry, often second class. It was on whatever papers the Jews had to carry, and certainly our Jewishness dictated where we could live, what professions Jews can hold, and certainly whom they could marry. In America, we don't have to do that anymore. For better or for worse, just fact, we really now are all Jews by choice. We are faced with that choice day in and day out. How much of our Jewish identity do we put out there in our day-to-day life with work colleagues, with strangers on a train, or wherever we might be interacting with non-Jews in this country? Wednesday is Shavuot, and we're going to be reading the book of Ruth. And Ruth has many different themes: the harvest, giving to the poor, hospitality, the redemption in the case of someone who dies childless. But then we also have what's become the paradigm of conversion, being a Jew by choice. It's not always the formality of going to a Beit Din or learning. It's being able to proudly declare that one's fate is with the Jewish people. The famous line that we read in Ruth, "For wherever you go, I will go," as she says to Naomi. "Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people." She's casting her lot with the Jewish people. "Your God, my God. And where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." I would love if they would add, but I think it's implied here, as she's already in Bethlehem, that your land is going to be my land. Casting your lot with the Jewish people. Ruth saw and said aloud that being Jewish is a blessing. She chose to say that this is not an onerous burden that I want to hide from. I'm going to put it out there. If we really think about it, obviously, I hope for most of us, Judaism brings us meaning. Judaism gives us community and a connection to Torah, which we will celebrate on Shavuot, and yes, to a land of Israel. And we should be proud to go and explain this to non-Jews. Really, let's remember, I'm not trying to downplay our fears, but violence and even real anti-Semitism against Jews in this country is still extremely rare. And we have the opportunity to show the world what is positive about being Jewish. We have the opportunity. And we might fail with some. But it doesn't mean that we hide and stop trying. Yes, God forbid, if there are people trying to get us, we need to hide. But we just had a beautiful parade in New York City last week. And yes, people were afraid, and I acknowledged and was there as a pastor with their fear. But I was there, and to see on every street corner at least 10 New York City police officers with smiles on their face, clearly concerned for our safety and the planning that went into it, I was able to say that America and New York City is still a place that Jews can live freely, not something to take for granted. And in order to do so, we can't hide either. We have to openly show our gratitude and say, yes, we are Jewish and we are glad to be part of this country. Today we began the book of Numbers. The Hebrew word for count is naso, to lift up. Yisa Adonai panav, God lift up your eyes, which we'll read in the priestly blessing next week. Individuals in a census make up a whole. In a census, we have to count individuals. And to count, they had to lift up each soul. I can even imagine, they didn't have computers or stuff then. They probably said to each local chieftain, okay, go and count your clan. Have them raise their hands. Naso, raise your hands. So my message today is we should all raise our hands and say, Yehudi Anochi, I am a Jew. If it feels okay to you, I can't get it out on my tie, I apologize, take out your necklace. I know people who have hid it. And please speak to your work colleagues, to other Jews you know, and tell them why you are proud to be Jewish, to show that Jews are decent, loving people with a national identity that we must respect. If you are fearful, I hear you. I don't judge you. All I do is to ask you to consider pushing the needle a little bit in your comfort and safety zone. And I invite you to join us on Shavuot night while we're enjoying some dairy food. Rabbi Stecker and I will continue to delve into the sources of how we can find Jewish pride in a time that we might not feel 100% safe. Shabbat Shalom.